Hi, this is Christine. Welcome to Scrap and Rabbit. Today I'm going to show you a quick tutorial on making a greeting card with photo mats and a two-sided message flap on the inside. The supplies for this project are included in the description below this video. I start with my cardstock. I'm using 12 by 12. You can also use 8.5 by 11. I start by cutting it so that the height measures 6 inches. I'm using the Spellbinders curved borders dies, and I'm cutting the front of my card. I'm going to layer the matting paper for the front when I cut my edge, because that way both my cardstock and the matting paper will be an exact fit. And when I attach my matting paper, I'm going to leave a little border along the right edge. I'm going to trim the height later so that you don't see that little notch at the top. Now I'm going to cut the width of the card, and I want the back of my card to show, so it's going to be cut to about 10 inches. When I fold my card in two, I'm going to fold it so that there's about an inch left between the front edge and the back edge of the card. Use a bone folder so you get some nice crisp folds. I'm going to measure where to cut my matting so that it fits on the front of the card. Again, I'm leaving that little edge along the right border so that the cardstock shows through. And then I'll make sure it fits before I adhere it. Before I finish attaching all of the matting paper, I'm going to add that little trim to the right edge of the front of my card. And to do that, I slide a piece of my decorative paper inside the card, and then I use the die and I just line it up along the outside edge of the front of the card to make sure it's going to fit. And I want it to follow the same lines as the edge of the card. So I'm just using a little piece of tape to attach that to the matting paper. I ran it through my Big Shot. And I'm just going to check to make sure that it fits, and it does. Next, I'm going to put the second layer of border. And I'm just going to measure to make sure all of my pieces fit before I trim. And again, I'm going to position my die along the previous border to make sure it follows the same lines. And I'll just attach it with a little piece of tape and run it through my Big Shot. I'm going to cut some of the height off of my border. And I'll trim the final height of the card once all of my border trims are attached. So now I'm going to trim some of the excess paper off of the first trim, and then I can glue that to my second piece of trim. I'm just using some white tacky glue. You can use two-sided tape if you prefer, but the glue works well, especially when you're following a curved edge like that. And now I'm going to trim off some of that excess cardstock before I attach the trim. So I'm going to run a line of glue along the inside edge on the front of the card, and along the straight edge on the top of the piece with the trim. Now I'm going to adhere it inside the card, so you just carefully position it, and then you close the front of the card down over the trim. Now I'm ready to attach the matting to the front of my card. And again, I'm just going to use some tacky glue along the edges. I don't need to put any glue in the center of the matting, and also that avoids the bubbling up of glue that you can get sometimes. You don't want to put too much glue on there, just enough to hold it in place. I really like the multi-layered effect that you get with these dies. It makes for a very elegant card. Now I'm going to trim the top and the bottom of the card, but I want to make sure that my matting is adhered really well before I do that. So I open the card flat, and I'm going to trim it so that the top and the bottom of my matting and the borders or the trims are all even with the cardstock. Now I'm going to make the inside panel. So I take another piece of cardstock, and again it measures about 6 inches high, and I'm combining two of the dies, one with the cut edge and the other die will have some punched design on there, and that's what I'm using for the inside. So I punched out my piece, and when I cut this so that it fits inside the card, I'm going to give an extra ½ inch along the right edge, and that's going to be used to form the hinge. And the hinge will attach to the right side of the card. So I position my flap so the straight edge is along the left side of my scoreboard, and I score down at 1/2 inch. I fold my hinge. Again, use a bone folder so that you get a really nice crisp fold. Then I put it in place just to make sure everything fits properly. And also I can see where I need to trim the flap a bit so that it's the same height as the rest of the card. So now I'm ready to attach my flap. And the hinge is going to attach to the back of the card. So I'm going to open the hinge, and I'm putting some two-sided tape inside. I start by removing a little bit of the two-sided tape backing, and then I can position my hinge over the back of the card and then remove the rest of the tape backing to attach it. So next I'm going to mat the inside of my card, and I picked some paper and I'm going to attach that on the inside front and inside back of the card. So again, I'm just eyeballing, and I'm going to mark where to trim the paper so that it fits inside the front of the card. And also I'm going to make it so that it's the same height as the cardstock. So that fits right on there. And I'm going to use my tacky glue just along the outside edges of the matting. Now when I attach that, I'm going to make sure that the right edge is just to the left of the crease on the card. You don't want it to go over the crease, otherwise you won't be able to close the card properly. And then I'm going to do the same thing to attach the matting inside the card. If you're using the same paper for both mattings inside the card, make sure that it's in the proper direction if there's a directional pattern on it, since both pieces of matting will be side by side when the card is opened. You don't want one going in one direction and the other one going in the opposite. And again, I'm going to make sure that when I attach this, it's going to be just to the right of the crease. Now I'm also going to mat the back of the card, and that will hide where the hinge attaches to the back of the card. And again, I'm making the matting the same height as the card. I'm going to adjust if there's any paper that's slightly over the edge of the card. I can always trim that off after. So all of my matting is done. If there's any paper sticking out at the top or bottom, I could just trim off the excess so that everything is nice and even. And now I'm ready to embellish the front of the card, and I'm going to use the Spellbinders Lace Hearts dies to do this. So I'm using the cutout heart as well as one of the center inserts, and I position that on my cardstock, and I'm going to use a little piece of tape again to hold these in place. And I'm also going to die cut the little key that comes with the set. So I'm going to place that on my Big Shot and cut my pieces. And it's always fun to get all these little bits out of the dies. I know there are ways that you can make life a bit easier by using some dryer sheets and also some wax paper to remove the pieces if you're working with very delicate cutouts. This one isn't too bad though. I just need to poke some of the pieces out with my stylus. Next, I'm going to make the flower that's going to attach over my heart. So I'm just using my flower punch and I'm punching out 2 layers. And then I'm going to fold the petals on each of the layers, and I just fold those in 2 to shape them. I do the same thing to the other layer. And then I'm going to use my glue gun to attach those together. And you just offset the petals to form the flower. Let that cool a bit. Now I'm using a strand of acrylic pearls to embellish my flower, and I'm starting off with about 12 inches and I'm going to trim it a bit later, but just to start off, and I'm going to make 2 loops so that it looks like a bow with little ends dangling along the bottom. Now I could tie those together with thread, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and glue that using my glue gun. So I'm going to add some glue to the middle of my flower, and then I can start shaping my pearls into a loop. And then I just form the other loop, and I've got the little ends dangling down the bottom. I could put a bunch of glue on there. It's going to be hidden with another little flower. I have some ribbon roses that I like using, and that's going to hide any glue that I use to attach those strands. I just cut the ends off to the length that I need. Again, I'm using some glue to attach the ribbon rose right on top of that acrylic knot. And you just trim the ends to the length that you prefer. And this is ready to attach to my heart. Watch you don't burn yourself when you're working with glue. In this case, it's oozing through the holes at the back of the heart, so I have to be careful because it's very hot. I burnt myself quite often when I'm using my glue gun. So now I'm going to put some more glue on the back of the heart, and I'm going to position that on my card, and I'm going to offset it a little bit. My little key will go underneath, and I'm going to use a bit of ink just to give a bit of detail to the edge all around the key. And I'm just going to use some tacky glue on the back to attach the key below the heart. I have a little ribbon bow and it's got a tiny little pearl on the front. So I'm going to use my glue gun and just attach that on the key. Now you can always add a sentiment if you like. I just wanted to leave it as an all occasion card, so I just put the little key there, but you could have happy birthday written underneath or happy anniversary or whatnot. Next, I'm going to attach some little flat back pearls along the scallop edge on the right side of the card. These already have some glue underneath them, so I just need to attach it, and I'm going to center that over each of the scallops. These are just white pearls. I could also use bling or different colors, but I think the white really looks pretty on this card because of the different shades of purple, and it goes well together. So I do that for each of the scallops. Then on the inside, I'm going to embellish the left edge a bit where the matting paper covers the cardstock, and I've got this pink bling. It almost looks metallic, but it is plastic. It's very shiny, so I can use my glue gun to attach that to the edge. And again, be very careful when using the glue gun. You don't want to splatter glue on your project, and also you don't want to burn your fingers. Especially when you get to the end, you want to be extra careful. And my card is done. I really like the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed working with this tutorial, and my email address is below this video, so feel free to send me pictures if you use this tutorial to make your own cards. Have a nice day and happy scrapping!